Hello there everybody and welcome to the entertainment headquarters and welcome to Kaiju Connections, my segment on the channel where I talk about all things big monster kaiju within the world of film and now television. And, I've been a huge Godzilla fan, Kaiju fan, since about 8 or 9 year old. And it's just a genre of cinema, that I've enjoyed and I've continued to enjoy. And right now, us Godzilla fans are on a high because we've been very blessed as of late with a number of really great films and television shows. So last year, we had the pleasure of having the first ever live action Godzilla show, which is by Legendary, and it was shown on Apple Plus, and it is of course Monarch Legacy of Monsters. Then we were treated to an Oscar-winning film, an amazing movie. We've never had a Godzilla film of that style since probably 1954 or maybe 1989 Return of Godzilla. These kind of Godzilla films are like once in a generation or come round once in a while, and when they do come around they strike a huge chord with a lot of audiences, not just kaiju fans, but general audiences as well. And that's what Godzilla Minus One delivered. And once again, we entered the Monsterverse little over 3 weeks ago with the pleasure and the dessert, I guess, because Minus One was the main course. It was the meal. Monarch Legacy of Monsters was the appetizer. Minus One was the main course, and the next film was the dessert. It was colourful, it tasted sweet, and it looked fantastic. And of course, I'm talking about Godzilla X Kong, The New Empire, which is heading towards a 400 million box office run right now. And it surprised the world because it got mixed reviews, like I knew it would, by critics, but the audiences are what telling the story, and the story it's telling it is that they're enjoying Godzilla X Kong, The New Empire, and the Monsterverse is here to stay. And to prove it's here to stay, the executives of Legendary have announced a new second season of Monarch Legacy of Monsters, and the big surprise, they're going to be doing some spin-off shows. So why I'm here today is because I want to talk about it. I want to talk about the shows. I want to talk about the potential plots for the shows. And I also want to talk about the future of the movies. So that is why I've titled this whole segment, The Monsterverse Continues. Next film, theories and thoughts, and also Monarch Legacy of Monsters Series 2 and spin-off ideas. So here we go. So let's start off with the television series. So with Monarch, the series spanned the generations of one family, the Randa family, who, Bill Randa was played by John Goodman in Kong Skull Island, and I forgot the name of the actor, but the younger version of his character is in Monarch Legacy of Monsters with his wife, Keiko. Now, it starts off way back when, and then throughout the course of the show, you see the different generations. You see our son, you see our, grandkids. And the whole plot of the show was about the two grandkids of Keiko, granddaughter and grandson, who didn't even actually know that one or the other existed. They find each other, they come together, and they are in search of their father, who has went missing. And throughout the course of the show, They read about Monarch, they learn about Monarch, they learn about their family's connection to Monarch. And it spans from the past to the future, back to the past, back to the future, or present day, should we say. And it's a great story arc. It was great how they intertwined the different plots and the different characters. So you had Kate, the granddaughter. I think you had Kentaro, the grandson. Hiroshi was their father, Keiko's son. You had the introduction of Mei, who was a character who worked for a company that later would become Apex Cybernetics. She decided to investigate and found out that they were doing some illegal animal testings, so she decided to delete all of their work that had been recorded and saved, and she went on the run. Hence she met Kentaro in Japan, Tokyo, and she goes on this thrill ride alongside all of that family dynamics and the history. You also had the character of Lee Shaw, who was played by Kate Russell and Wyatt Russell. Wyatt Russell, Kate Russell's real son, played Lee Shaw way back when, the younger version, and Kate Russell played the older one. And spoiler alert, sorry if you haven't finished the series, but it's been out a while now. The end episode ended where they ended up in the Hollow Earth, a part of the Hollow Earth called the Axis Mundi. It's like the in-between world between the surface world and the Hollow Earth. And they were down there to rescue who they thought was going to be Kate and Mei. Mei being the one who was hiding from Apex Cybernetics, and Kate, the sister, they fell into this opening that led them to that area. And during that time they found Keiko, who they also thought had perished and died years before. There's a kind of thing that goes on where she hasn't aged that much because time works differently down there because of the gravitational pull of the earth, something along those lines. But anyway, Lee Shaw goes down there. He was able to find them, and they are able to escape thanks to the help of Godzilla and some, very, scientific, crafty stuff. And the end episode is they end up on Skull Island. And who rocks up? Kong. You have that one shot right at the end of the last episode where he is roaring away in the rain of a thunderstorm on the island. So that is what happened with Monarch. So where do I believe we could go next? So personally, I believe Monarch Season 2 will be very Kong heavy. I think, they're going to save Godzilla and his plot for the potential next film. So because of that, I believe this is what could potentially happen. We're going to see Keiko, who's now, back up out of the Hollow Earth, who's been missing for so many years. We're going to see her struggle to adapt to the new present day. And she's also going to be rebuilding a relationship with her son, with her grandkids, and it's going to be difficult for her. Also, she'll still be grieving the loss of Lee Shaw, because Lee Shaw sacrificed himself, so I believe, to get them back up to the surface. So Lee Shaw perished during the final episode in that rescue mission. So I believe that'll be her plot. I believe, obviously, Monarch, who, as we know on Godzilla vs. Kong, were in charge of the outpost on Skull Island. But the end episode is revealed that it is actually Apex Cybernetics that is in charge of the outpost on Skull Island. So I think one of the main plot points outside of Keiko's subplot is going to showcase the years between 2017 to the year 2019, 3 years. And I think what it'll showcase how Monarch gets its hands on the outpost on Skull Island that I believe they might not even know exists at this time. And obviously with Apex Cybernetics, we know the story, you know what happened there. It leads to it leads to the development and the creation of Mechagodzilla and JVK. So I believe we might see all of that forming throughout the history of the second season. As for the other characters, you have the character of Tim, who was a part of Monarch, who then quits and teams up with Apex Cybernetic. I believe he will have a stronger plot in the second season, and he might be the one that uncovers that what he's done is a huge mistake siding with Apex Cybernetics and realises what they're up to. What are they doing on the island? What kind of experiments are they doing? Like I say, May's story is she ran away from Apex Cybernetics because they were doing illegal animal testing. So who's to say they're doing Titan testings on the island and they're actually torturing these poor Titans? Skull crawlers perhaps. And I also believe that we're heading towards a love triangle. There was lots of very small hints of May and Kentaro, who were in like a sort of loving kind of relationship kind of thing that was developing. But it seems that Kate, the sister, she and May seem to get very close very fast within the show, the first season, and there were hints that there might be more than friendship there, which I believe that could be where they head with those characters, and if they do, so be it. But it probably might, take away from the show if that's the road they go down. As long as it's done naturally, organically, and it doesn't come across forced, I'm sure it will be fine. But that's the plot that I believe Monarch Season 2 will go down. It will be very Kong heavy, and it'll probably show you his life on the island, and we're going to see the development of Mechagodzilla. As for the spin-off shows, I've got two ideas. My first idea, like Paramount Plus, they have revived Star Trek in the most brilliant way. There's so many new shows that are, let's give it a fresh look, a fresh take. And later this year, I believe, or early next year, we're getting a movie event. And it's going to be called Star Trek Section 31, which is a secret organisation that is, helping the Federation. And who's the star in that? None other than Michelle Yeoh. It's a movie event, a television movie event for Paramount Plus. So I believe that we could get something similar with the Monsterverse on Apple Plus. I believe we could get a Lee Shaw spin-off television event movie or a mini-series which showcases that he didn't perish at the end of Monarch Season 1, and it will show you him surviving in the Hollow Earth, learning as much as he can, and the end of that season mini-series or television movie could lead to him being back in a Monarch Season 3 and reconnecting with Keiko. So that's one idea. Another idea would be another prequel series, which is basically Skull Island. As we know, we have the Skull Island animated show on Netflix that for me didn't do what I wanted it to do. It was alright for what it was. I think it's a one and done. I don't think it's been renewed. It basically shows you survivors on the island and Kong interacting. You don't really get much of Kong. It's more about the individuals and the characters throughout that show, where I think if they did another show but a live action show, you could see Kong on the island take on a variety of other Titans, more skull crawlers, even bring in a couple of Toho original creatures. We could get Kumonga, we could get the Kamakoras, the giant mantises. You could even bring in a lesser known kaiju like, say, Varan. You know, all of these possibilities. But the main plot, I believe, will be around, if I'm honest, I would like to see something like when Monarch gets their hands on the outpost for Skull Island and they take it over and they have to evacuate it in, say, 2019 before King of the Monsters. There's a handful of survivors that are left behind who there could be 6, 7 or 8 of them, and it's all about them trying to get rescued or trying to find a way of surviving and getting off the island. And during this time, like I say, I've never read any of the graphic novels, so I don't really know the lore of the graphic novels. During this time, they could find the last members of the Iwi tribe and they could find a baby Jaya. And as you know, Dr. Andrews adopts Jaya in the films, but even though she's her adopted mother, was she the one that actually rescued her, or was she rescued first? And then Dr. Andrews took over and took on Jaya as a stepmother. So I believe that will be a great plot twist. They maybe have a pregnant Iwi lady who gives birth to Jaya, and then you see her family unfortunately meet their untimely end, and they manage to take the baby away off the island and back to the mainland. So that could be another mini-series or spin-off movie event featuring survivors on Skull Island. I would like to think they might do a spin-off in the Hollow Earth, but not a prequel, more or less directly following, you know, following that of JXK, the New Empire, which shows an outpost on the Hollow Earth and a team of, you know, mercenaries, a team of soldiers, scientists, trackers, you know, inventors, and how they're basically researching the Hollow Earth. They're just down there, a little group of them, and they're walking around the Hollow Earth and they're discovering new titans, new plant life, new things, and there could be lots of twists and turns, and they could meet, you know, a rival company. Maybe Apex is still there, but it's under a new management and rebranded again, or a different set of characters from the government who are there doing things illegally. That will be another idea for another spin-off show for, you know, Apple Plus. But that's just a couple of my ideas. A third, third me 3 ideas. And when I think of the Hollow Earth show, I could see it being somewhat similar to, say, the Bad Batch from Star Wars. These group of, you know, characters that are a mixed bunch that don't really know each other, don't really, you know, have anything in common, but the common ground is survival in the Hollow Earth and learning more about it. Let's get on with the next chapter of the Monsterverse in film form. So where do we go next? Well, first and foremost, Adam Wynyard had stated that if he gets his hands on doing a third film, and it will be the third of his JXK trilogy, it will be more Godzilla focused. And his inspiration is Godzilla versus Destroyer. And a lot of people want Destroyer as the main villain. I personally think his inspiration is not the fact he wants to bring in Destroyer, but the relationship and the bond between Godzilla and Godzilla Jr. And I believe he also stated that if he gets the opportunity to do a third film, that the third one, Godzilla would not be alone. So he's basically hinting we're getting Godzilla Jr. And I hope it's more along the lines of Godzilla Jr. I'd rather have that than a Minya double ganger, because Minya was just an albino maggot with arms and legs and a fucking disgusting face. I'm sorry, I've got no time for that little guy. But Godzilla Jr., however, I have nothing but love for, and he was an amazing part of Godzilla versus Destroyer. And it would be great if he does get discovered, or an idea for me is to put a little twist on it and make the female Godzilla Jr. to be a female, because we've had a little Suko, Godzilla, Kong's little companion now, and you know, just like Marvel, just like Star Wars, we've got Baby Groot, we've got Grogu, so the toy sales for that little guy will probably sell out well, but you know, why not change things, and now we've got a baby Kong. When we're bringing a baby Zilla, make the Zilla a female and maybe try to attract more female audiences. And it would be different to see a female mini Godzilla interacting with Suko and seeing the two adults basically interact. Now, to bring a baby Zilla in, we would need a plot that would basically bring Godzilla and Kong together again, to want to team up again. They did it out of necessity for the greater good in GXK. That's basically what they did. It wasn't because they wanted to be friends, and I think Mothra give Godzilla that bit of a nudge to want to team with Kong. But where do we go and how do we make it happen? Well, I have an idea which would lead to the next villain. So let's talk about villains. So first and foremost, my idea is the next movie, a baby Godzilla is discovered. It's either discovered by the government or a rival company, organisation to Monarch. And along the lines, they are doing illegal experimentations on Titans. Now, it was hinted in Monarch Season 1, that's what Apex were doing. And so my idea for a film would be this. Basically, there's a rival company, or it's under the influence of the government, because it was also teased in GXK that the Beast Glove was hidden in the Hollow Earth, and all the evidence of its kind of existence was hidden from the government, because they didn't want the government to have an excuse to be able to take over all of Monarch's operations. They've been trying to protect the Titans and all of the information they have away from the government, which would probably ransack it all and use it, you know, in the most bullshit way that would probably cause more damage than anything else. So my idea for a plot would be another company like Apex, or Apex rebranded once again, or government officials who have now taken on Apex employees who have now secretly kind of got themselves right at the top of the government, and have kind of secretly been plotting this master plan of using all the government resources, get me teeth back in, fuck's sake, all of the government's resources to build a secret super weapon. And they've already tried with robots, we've tried with Mechagodzilla, so because of the, you know, the illegal Titan testing, this would be a great way to introduce none other than one of my favourite kaiju, and it is of course none other than, when I get my hands on the frickin' picture, this bad boy, Gigan. So what I believe would be a great plot is that they have found this very pleasant, very placid creature, and they capture it, they begin illegally experimenting on it, and they slowly dissect it, add, you know, mechanical parts, cybernetic parts, and he becomes Gigan. But it'll be throughout the story, throughout the plot of the movie. You will see Gigan is like a semi-peaceful creature who is forced to take on Godzilla and Kong. But as the plot progresses and he gets more work done on him, he slowly loses who his identity is. He slowly becomes more, you know, of a mindless robot, till eventually by the third act of the movie, he would actually be more or less this version, the version from Godzilla Final War, just a complete mindless killing machine. And just like the other films, the government or Apex, the people who are, in control of it, would lose control of him, and he would go on a rampage and just go on a killing spree. But this would also lead into Godzilla and Kong teaming up again, because basically Suko would have been kidnapped by this, other organisation or secret, members of the government who have done this illegally, and they'll also have in their possession a baby Godzilla. And so it would give Kong and Godzilla the motivation, so once again, to team up to take on Gigan. But not just that, it would also mean, this government agency could also have other, not Titans under their control, but other mechanical vehicles, which would make, a great opportunity to bring in some classic Toho vehicles. You could bring in Mogira as a giant battleship that then transforms into a robot. You could even bring in, Easter eggs that there is a Jet Jaguar being made, which could lead to the next film. But that plot would be all about, animal cruelty and, all of that stuff. That would be the hidden message of that film. And the plot could work very well similar to what they did with Guardians of the Galaxy 3 with Rocket. How he was just this peaceful creature that unfortunately was used in these horrendous experiments, and you see that going on. So not only would Gigan be an ultimate villain, but it would be interesting for him to have like an anti-hero kind of storyline, or a sympathetic storyline where you understand he's become this monster, but he didn't start out that way, and he became a creature that we grow to have sympathy for. And unfortunately, Godzilla and Kong have no choice but by film's end to take him down. And, that is just one plot idea, featuring Gigan as this misfortunate creature that's been experimented on and now becomes an ultimate villain, with Suko and a baby Godzilla in the mix. Another plot idea I came up with was to introduce another one of my favourite villains, and I think he's a fan favourite, and it's none other than, not that one, if I can get this one, Hedorah. So how do we introduce Hedorah? So my plot idea for Hedorah is simple. The world is full of pollution, global warming, and that's going to be the hidden agenda and message throughout the plot. Is pollution, global warming is at its all-time worst. And there are many cracks throughout the bottom of our surface world that have leaked all of this pollution down into the hollow earth in this undiscovered area that is now mounted up and is now being stockpiled for years and years and generation after generation. Because of the unknown hollow earth energy and how it works, it brings life to this stockpile of pollution and all of this stuff. It brings it to life, and it slowly begins to form and slowly begins to separate. And so you would have many different forms of Hedorah. You would have the four-legged Hedorahs. You would have the flying Hedorahs. You would have other forms of Hedorah, but everything would lead back to this place where the ultimate form of Hedorah would be seen. And a great thing with this, because of the technology we have today, you would have, the world being, invaded by all these different forms of Hedorahs and different types. You could make how we operate and move like a symbiote from Spider-Man, like in liquid form, and like, how he like can just crawl across the floor or stick to objects and ruin things. That's what I would bring to Hedorah. I would give him this badassity to make him look and have different forms and different sizes and shapes and make him look like a proper badass villain version of Hedorah, with all this stockpile of pollution within the Hollow Earth, where we will see Grand Hedorah, I guess we could call him, this massive stockpile river of ooze that forms and turns into this gigantic version of Hedorah that has, you know, take on both Godzilla and Kong, who will struggle. Especially Kong. Kong, I think, will struggle because he could even be poisoned at some point throughout the plot of the film, and his subplot could potentially be where the members of Monarch are having to rush to find a cure or an antidote to the poison that's going throughout his bloodstream that potentially could kill him. So that's another subplot that would be all about pollution, global warming, and a really, really dangerous version of Hedorah. Another thing I've noticed everybody would like to see, they would all like to see Destroyer and Biollante. Now, I love Biollante, I really do, but my thing with Biollante is, I believe she, you know, should be seen in a different version that we've seen on the Heist era. I believe what I would do is to bring both Hedorah and, not Hedorah, Biollante and Destroyer in. As we're seeing in 2019, the Oxygen Destroyer is used. You could then slowly see the emergence of Destroyer. And my idea is make this like an all-out destroy all monster scenario, where you have the natural titans of the world that were formed naturally, Godzilla, Kong, Mothra, Shimo, Suko, and maybe a few more, take on Destroyer, who has formed not naturally. He's been created by mankind's interference and a host of other mutants. You could have a Muto Prime in this. You could have, you know, you could potentially have Hedorah in this as a mutant. You could have, say, Megaguirus. And how you could have Megaguirus is that I believe the director of Godzilla, King of the Monsters, stated in the final scene where you see the severed Ghidorah head, there were flies eating off the fungus and off the, you know, the scalp and all that of King Ghidorah, and we don't know if eating the blood and the, you know, the part of Ghidorah which would have alien DNA, how that would alter a fly, an insect, a plant. And that would be a great way to bring in Megaguirus as this giant mutated fly or firefly, you know, dragonfly. So that's the road I would go down, having all of these mutations, these unnatural, natural creatures that were formed from mutations or alien, you know, devices like I've suggested, versus the natural titans of the earth. And one of the plot points would be Destroyer's trying to get to the centre of the earth because he wants to create the earth in his own image and rule it with all the mutants, all the mutant titans. And at the centre of the earth is the greatest and the oldest of all titans and the largest, Biollante. And if he gets to the centre of the earth and destroys Biollante, all life on earth will perish, because she is the heart, the soul, and she is the resource that keeps on coming back time after time to bring life to earth. She has this unique ability to do that. And I wouldn't show her in like the Godzilla form. I would actually just show her in a rose form. you know, I think that is the most beautiful version of Biollante, and I believe to show her in a rose form with giant tentacles, with obviously with still with the jaws and the teeth, taking on that of Destroyer in his most brutal and vicious form would be the way to go. So that's what I would have. I would have the fight for the Earth, the mutants versus the naturally born Titans to protect Biollante from being destroyed and from Destroyer from taking over the Earth. Now, there's been talks of potentially bringing space aliens into this. I am not a fan of Space Godzilla. So I personally wouldn't bring Space Godzilla into this. I personally would bring in maybe an alien race who are in the middle of the hollow earth that have been hidden under, you know, suspense animation in a spaceship. They get free and they then use their abilities to summon and control titans under the hollow earth, like Megalon. Megalon would be a great choice as another villain, but a Megalon like we've never seen. I think to bring in aliens like that invade Earth from outer space might take it, you know, a little bit further than they want to go. Having them already on Earth, hidden under the ground in suspended animation and being revealed would be the way to go. Now, they've been very successful with their own original Titans like Shimo and all of that. But if they are going to bring in another character, that is not going to cost as much money. Because for each Titan that they use from Toho, they have to pay money. And it's not easy. They were very lucky to get Mothra because there was a placeholder Titan called Phosphora. And if they hadn't had Phosphora, basically they put Phosphora in the place of Mothra, and luckily they're able to get a deal struck and they were able to get the Mothra license. So Phosphora didn't happen, but Mothra did. So for me, if they're all going to use a big bad in any of the future films, why not bring in a character that's never been used on screen before? He's been used once before, but under the form of the children's animated show, and he's a fascinating character that deserves his big break. And because he's never been used properly before, they could do so much with this character. And just like King Ghidorah, if we're going to bring aliens into it, this would be the way to go for me. And I'm talking about Bagan. Bagan is a character that has never had justice on the screen before. Just like King Ghidorah, who crashed onto Earth to try and take over the world, they could always bring in Bagan as another alien creature who's maybe hibernating on the moon, awakens and flies down to Earth, and he's so destructive, so powerful, that Godzilla and Kong have no choice but once again to team up to take on the power of Bagan, who also has the ability to hypnotize and control other titans, including Zuko, Shimo, even potentially Mothra. But for some reason, Kong and Godzilla are able to avert his control, and they're the only two to take on Bagan and a host of other titans. This is what Bagan looked like in the show, the kids show that came out in Japan. He looks fierce, he looks terrifying, but that is who I would bring in as another alien creature if we were to go down the alien route. But that's just a couple of ideas that I came up with for the Monsterverse, for the show, for the future of the franchise. But the most important thing is that the franchise and the future of the Monsterverse is here. And it's going to continue. I'm over the moon with it. I hope yous are over the moon with it. Let me know in the comments below your ideas for the future of the Monsterverse. For the TV series Monarch Legacy of Monsters, and of course 4, the live action films. But please like, share and subscribe to the entertainment headquarters. This has been Kaiju Connections, and you know, keep the kaiju love alive. Let me know what you thought in the comments below of my video and of my ideas for the show and the future, the films. And you know, I'm just so excited because I never thought we would get a Godzilla film series that would last this long. I thought after 2014 it might be a one and done. But we've been so lucky that the Monsterverse has had the impact it's had. And just like Marvel, you know, that hide everything out straight away and has continued to grow. It's been a bit of a slow burn, but I think the Monsterverse, it's finally found its correct footing. It finally knows what it is, and it knows what it wants, and it knows what the audience wants. And so hopefully the next lot of films will have a mixture of strong, you know, action, great scenery and great monster battles, but also I think to keep it alive we have to change up the plots and have them, you know, a bit more depth, because there's only so much of what we've seen that we can put up with. You know, people always complain that they're not very human plot heavy. Well, hopefully the films will be a mixed bag going forward. And I believe the story, the human story in JXK was the best that we've had yet. But from me to you, take care everybody, and I'll catch us all at the next one.